Going into this game, I was really excited and I was sure that I would love it. Trailers looked good and I really liked visual style and I was ready to really enjoy this game. But after I completed the 100% of achievements on Steam, I think game is not good. It really disappointing. Short version, this game is extremely mediocre. It overstays itself compared with repetitive content, flat characters and a story that feels like it was written by a robot. I don't mean AI, I mean a human animational robot. Before I give you a full review, a quick heads up, this review may contain some light spoilers so I can properly explain why certain design choices drag the whole experience down. Let's start from beginning. The opening act starts off fine enough with standard intro tutorial that teaches you basics, movement, combat fundamentals. Straightforward, but then you step into chapter 1 and the game hits you with another round of tutorials. And when you think you have cleared the hand-holding stage and entered full game, midway through chapter 1, it sends you to deliver backstory that doubles as yet another tutorial segment. Perfect, right? Yeah. It feels completely unnecessary. By this point you've already been playing for hours. At least I was, because I love to explore every part of the map and I've mastered the core loop. Stopping gameplay at this point to explain mechanics you already familiar with kills any momentum. As a first impression, the opening act sitting at 4 out of 10, cluttered with unnecessary tutorials. Once you finish starting chapters, you hit mid-game and there is where the core game design issues really start to show. Frankly, a large part of the game feel entirely unnecessary. Instead of introducing fresh challenges or evolving story, the game forces you to fight exact same area bosses multiple times. Every single boss has 2 phases on end of the map without a miss. And the worst part is that you encounter those bosses mid of the map and every single time mid encounter has 1 phase. So on some maps you fight same boss 2 separate times. No variations with interesting new mechanics or drastically different paces. Just the same fight recycled in the different areas. It's really obvious why this was done. It feels like developers realized their narrative wasn't long enough, so they threw in recycled bosses encounters to stretch the runtime and inflate the overall play count. If you removed those repeated fights, the game wouldn't lose anything of value. In fact, it would be much better, tighter and more enjoyable. For a mid-section, which should be main experience of the game and most enjoyable, game stumbles hard. I give the mid-game a 5 out of 10 because combat feels good and still somewhat enjoyable. By the time you reach the end, the game has long overstayed its welcome. On paper, the campaign boasts 12 chapters, but in reality the last 3 chapters are very short, almost as if the team ran out of the time or budget right at the finish line, which is strange because this team should have kinda infinity manning glitch. Honestly, this game could and should have ended around chapter 7 or 8. Story-wise and boss-wise, there was zero narrative reason to drag this journey out long as it did. The ending feels just as mediocre as the journey leading up to it. I was reading a really good web novel called XP is Gold. It was really good with good story pacing, all characters were polished with branching narratives, but it ended abruptly. This game felt similar at the end. At least the web novel was enjoyable and story was good contrary to this game. When a game or any other media drags its feet for hours only to rush through its end, it feels anticlimactic. For story pacing and satisfaction at the finish line, the ending gets 3 out of 10. Let's talk about the story as a whole, or rather the lack thereof. You know who the final boss is from very start of the game, even if you never read the name of the game. The story introduces main boss from the start. There is a slight twist at the end, but it was so very obvious that even toddler wouldn't be surprised. The entire campaign is simply one long straight line, a prolonged journey to fight the final boss you know about in 5 minutes, punctuated by fighting these same mini bosses over and over again along the way. Because there are practically no dynamic subplots or meaningful narrative shifts, moving forward feels like a chore rather than compelling adventure. I give story 2 out of 10. Now it wasn't all bad. Let's talk about combat. When you first get to know mechanics, the combat feels quite enjoyable. The hit feedback is solid, abilities link together smoothly, and baseline controls feels responsive. Using curse abilities feels enjoyable. But the combat system is really held back by the lack of enemy variety. One of the enemy variants is the flying ball. Pretty sure it didn't even manage to attack me even once, and I didn't mean I dodged or evaded attack. I'm pretty sure it didn't even manage to go to attack animation, and one of those was even designed as the sub-boss level monster. You spend 20 to 25 hours fighting the exact same enemies using exact same tactics. Once you solve how to beat an enemy type in how to, you solve how to beat them for the rest of the game. That initial thrill of combat degrades into boredom as you realize the game is going to challenge you with new enemies or behaviors. Combat enjoyment is 5 out of 10 and difficulty is 2 out of 10. Usually the game design is easily one of the game's highlights, but the character writing is abysmal. Main character visually looks good, but personality-wise she has less emotional range than Christian Bale in Equilibrium. She is very dull. Frankly, all of the characters are dull. I'll give her a 6 out of 10 because of looks. As for side characters, they follow the same exact trend. Great design, weak execution. None of them get expanded storylines or meaningful arcs. The one exception in terms of writing is Brad, the old man. Story-wise, he was the only character who felt grounded and genuinely interesting. On the design, Caroline looks best. Visually, she is the best looking character in the game. Honestly, if Kunai had been main character instead, the game overall style would have been much better. Because of the visual design across the board is strong, set characters get a 6 out of 10, but it's frustrating to see great visuals assets versus on the flat writing. To wrap things up, let's lay down the pros and cons. The pros: strong visual design across all main characters and side characters, and responsive, enjoyable baseline combat mechanics. The cons: highly repetitive encounter design and boss design, padded runtime that drags out an empty story, a completely predictable plot with no meaningful turns, bland emotionally flat characters with minimal development. At the end of the day, good visuals and decent combat can only carry a game so far when the structural pacing and narrative fails to deliver. It overstays its welcome and leaves you wishing it had cut half its length for a tighter, more memorable package. If I had to summarize this entire experience in a score right now, it's 4.5 out of 10. What do you think if you played this game? Did you enjoy the visual design or combat? Did you enjoy the story? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in next video.